Hey staff, hope you're all doing great. It's good to be with you probably just for 10 minutes or so here at the all staff meeting. I'm actually away on vacation and having a great time. We're in the middle of a little 3,000-mile journey. Right now we're out in Buffalo, New York with some friends, actually friends that we met at Suncrest, I think in a community group. Just a testimony to the power of community groups and finding friends. Les works for the State Department, so they've moved to Monterrey, Mexico, and Washington, D.C., and Ethiopia, and now Buffalo, New York, and we've gone and visited them every place for a little family vacation except for Ethiopia. We've had some adventure along the way. I did get pulled over once, did not get a speeding ticket, but it's interesting how my kids have, how the reactions have changed to that over time, because I remember early on when I'd get pulled over, they'd say, "Oh no, Dad, what's wrong? There's a policeman behind us." And this time when I said, "Oh no, I'm getting pulled over," Abby from the back seat simply said, "Ha ha, Dad." So we corrected that. I don't think we'll be getting that reaction again anytime in the future. But just being away on this short vacation was a good reminder to me of something that's very important. It kind of lifted inside of me a theme that I've been working through in my own life over the last few years, and I want to share it with you because I think it can be helpful for anyone really at all, but especially for those of us who serve in the church world. And here's the idea. A lot of people, when life is busy and crazy and you feel like there's all these different priorities pressing in, a lot of people try to achieve balance in their life. They think, oh, if I can just get to a place where I'm balanced, even just for a moment, that would be beautiful. But the truth is, balance is a myth. And there was a guy named Bruce Miller who I've gotten to spend a little bit of time with. He wrote a book called Your Life in Rhythm. And it's shaped my life in a lot of ways, and being away over these last couple of weeks has reminded me of it. So let me just ask you the question he asked me and a group of us who were in a group with him a few years ago. He said, "What happens when there are multiple priorities in your life and all of them are worth giving your life for?" Now, not everything in your life is worth giving its life for, but he says, what happens when there's two or three or four things in your life and they're all priorities, they're all important, and you might even be able to rank them a little bit, might be able to say one is more important than someone else, but the truth is all of them are worth giving your life for, or giving part of your life for. And I don't know for sure about you, but I know in my life, when I think about that, I think about just my personal walk with God, and I think that's huge. I can't lose sight of that in the midst of all the other things, ministry and otherwise, in my life. I think about my family, and whether that's personal family or even a little bit of extended family for me, I think you've heard the phrase, I'm not going to sacrifice my family on the altar of ministry. And I certainly want to embrace that phrase. I don't want to sacrifice my family just by doing a lot of good things for God. And yet then there is the element of ministry, which is a calling for me, and I know for many of you, it's not just the mission of Suncrest to be used by God to change lives, but it's the mission Jesus gave us to go and make disciples everywhere. So how do we do all of that together and do it well? And when you have three things like this, all of which I'd give my life for, how do you figure out how to integrate that in your life? And so I'm going to give you just a suggestion and then a few thoughts from my own life with that. Here's how I've written it down. I'd say create seasons, but not separation. And so each of the three things I just mentioned, and maybe there's something else in your life, you have to figure out how to create seasons to emphasize one of those. And yet I really want to warn you against creating a complete separation, to act as if this part of my life is my life with God, and this part of my life is my ministry life, and this part of my life is my family life. You certainly can emphasize different ones in seasons, but don't separate them, because I think it's very healthy to create a distinction and create a couple of weeks where I'm away and I focus on my family, or a day or a week where I focus on my walk with God. But in the midst of creating distinction, I think this is the big thing. We have to work not to create disintegration. We don't want life to disintegrate, right? And what that means is all of this has to be held in tension with one another at the same time. And to think I'm going to be able to find a moment where everything's perfectly balanced is probably a myth. And so here's how I start to think about it. You've probably seen television or maybe at a circus somewhere the old image of plate spinners, people keeping all the plates spinning all at the same time. And I think that's a picture of balance. They're trying to keep everything balanced all at the same time, but what they're doing while trying to stay balanced is they're wearing themselves out. There's no joy in this, even while things are seemingly going well. There's not a moment to appreciate it. And so I don't think balance is the goal. I also think sometimes we get in this mode where we think, I need to go do something and completely stop doing other things. I need to go on a retreat with God and stop the idea of ministry or time with my family or something like that. And I think, well, it is good to create seasons and give emphasis, but don't completely stop doing any of this, because I think the beauty, if we can handle it, is when all of these things are integrated together in our lives. I got the chance to sit down with Bobby Jackson a little over a week ago, and we've talked a couple times during this sabbatical, but I wanted to have one conversation which was really just about the spiritual side of his sabbatical on his time away. And we had a great conversation, talked about a number of things, and he talked about how the first couple months there was a really nice kind of season where he just focused on his family and focused on God. And we talked about the nature of sabbaticals, and no doubt you've seen him around a little bit more as this last month of his sabbatical takes place. But part of that is to say he's in a spot right now where he can still focus on his family, still focus on God, but he can also do a few ministry things that he wants to do, that bring him life, that bring him energy, that will help him later on. And he still doesn't have to do the parts of ministry that he really doesn't want to do. And I think, well, this is healthy, right? Because we're not trying to create hard lines of separation just for the sake of a hard line. We're kind of acknowledging that there's seasons to this, and that there's times when we come and weave things back together again. It was striking to me because we're away on a family vacation. I'm trying to emphasize the time with the family over these 10 days, but my kids are sitting in the back seat of the van on one of these long drives, and they're watching the video that we made from Liberia a year ago. Mark Soselski just finished this video. It's 90 minutes long. It's kind of amazing. We'll show it to all of you in some setting fairly soon. But in this video, I hear the kids in the back seat seeing the ministry that's happening in Liberia, laughing and kind of imagining what God is doing there. And I think this is beautiful, because I didn't have to set the Liberia thing, the ministry thing aside to go on vacation. There's an integration that can generate conversation, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So I really want to say, hey, certainly there's seasons to emphasize something, but don't create this separation that leads to disintegration. In fact, here's what happened when I started thinking about it a little bit. I thought, usually the best times in my walk with God have been times when I'm serving Him. It's true, there's been a couple times when I've been on a retreat, and it's just me and God in kind of a mountaintop or a wilderness experience, and that's been really fantastic. But there's also been times where when I walked with God, I grew the most in my personal faith and my trust in Him actually in the midst of serving Him. It's happened when I've been in Liberia, and I've been there to serve and try to help and been tired and worked hard, and all at the same time, there's this thing that God teaches me about dependence on Him and where our joy truly comes from, and it's been a work that He's been doing in my life. I think about just this past Easter when we had all these baptisms, and I think, wow, we prayed through that, we fasted through it, the elders reflected on it, we were trusting God completely in this, and then He showed up. And I remember walking back to my office just after the day was done and sitting there and praising God. And I think that something happened there in my own walk with God, but it happened out of an experience of serving Him and being used in His mission. And a lot of times that's how it works, this integration that happens. So here's the other thing I thought. Sometimes my best times for serving Him haven't been in doing church stuff or sitting in my office or a counseling appointment. My best times for serving Him have been when I'm with my family or away from Him. So just this past week, Jack and I went out fishing. We rented a little John boat and did some fishing. It was a kind of a terrible experience, actually. We only caught 2 fish, and both of them were with Abby's half-sized Barbie fishing pole. But while we were doing that, we got to have some great conversations, and I felt like my ministry with my son, my chance to make a disciple there, happened in the midst of that. And when we went into the bait shop and we talked to the guy who we were going to rent the boat from, there was a conversation that got generated out of that about caring about people far from God and about generosity and things like that, that it just struck me that some of the best ministry that's happening is actually in the midst of time when I'm with my family and a chance to teach them too. I also was thinking, the truth is, if I wouldn't get away and spend some one-on-one time with God, a number of the big initiatives that I felt like God's calling us to as a church would have never come about. And so the best things that I can do at times to serve Him are to get away and to connect with Him. That's obviously got the point for today. These things are integrated. We're not trying to keep them completely separated to where they're disintegrated. So give emphasis to different seasons. Get away with your family. Get away for time with God. Go all in with ministry, but pay attention to how these things intersect and weave with one another. Last thing, and this is just kind of the third image of it, is some of the best times for my family have come out of serving and have come out of my time with God. Certainly vacations like this are good, and we're creating some memories along the way, but the chance to serve alongside of my kids in some settings have been the very best thing for my family. Certainly the chance to be away and retreat with God are times when He's gotten my attention about priorities being out of whack, and I've made some hard resets about my travel schedule, about some things like that, where I feel like I was not being the husband that I needed to be. In my devotional times and reading Ephesians chapter 5 about what a husband does and what a father does, I think that time where it's really my walk with God has fed the health of my family in some powerful ways. And so keep these all together. Let me just say one other thing while I'm talking about seasons here. Suncrest is in a unique season right now. We always are, I guess, to some degree. And what's happening is, whether you're in different ministries or at different campuses, we're hitting different seasons right now. It's actually starting to rain out here, so I'm going to really say this fast. Groups are gearing up for what's in the fall. Student ministry at St. John is gearing up for a launch later this month. Everyone at St. John is gearing up for Thursday night services. But other campuses have been going strong all summer long. You've been having your events. You've been out in the community. You've been out doing different things. We've had people on sabbaticals, and there's different seasons that go with that. And I would just say, let's be a team. Let's help one another in their different seasons. One of the beautiful things about the sabbatical is how I've seen other people step up to help while some have been away. Let's keep that going together, and let's pay attention to the seasons of church life, to find the moments to catch our breath, and also to find the moments to kind of go all in and help one another out as a team. Last thing I want to say. Back at Easter, we had all these baptisms, and I kind of said at that stage, I know no one would ever convince me that it was disconnected from the fasting that we did together as a church. And I don't know when the next time will be that I call our whole church to a fast. I think it'll be fairly soon here. But I just want to say to each of you, I want you before the end of this month to take some time to fast. Just you individually. Maybe you want to do it together with your family and make this a family experience. But when you're fasting, seek out what God has to say to you for your personal walk with Him, for your ministry areas and how you want to serve Him, and certainly for your family and how He wants you to lead and create some things to remember in your family. And so, all of you, I'm giving you the freedom to take one day away. It's a work day, but you can take it away from the church. I want you to fast on that day and to seek God and to really explore how am I gonna take all these things, all of which I'd give my life for, keep them integrated, and God, where do you want to lead us in that? Listen, Suncrest, thanks for everything. Thanks for the chance just for me to be away. You guys keep things going in amazing ways. Look forward to being back on Sunday for a tough topic. But yeah, before the end of this week, why don't you get that on the calendar when you can take a day this month to be away with God, fast, be dependent on Him, make sure it grows your personal relationship, where He's leading your ministry area, and also what He wants to do in your family. Appreciate you guys. Thanks.